Instead of just watching UFC 370 this weekend, why don't we make money from it? I've been on a crazy hot streak in 2025, coming on here week after week and giving you bet after bet after bet. In this video, I'm gonna give you some of the glitches in the Vegas Matrix as we take on UFC 370. It's an absolute banger of a card. We have Ilia Topuria taking on Charles Oliveira for the vacant lightweight title. We have Alexandre Pantoja taking on Kai Kara France. Absolute banger of a fight. Brandon Royval versus who? Joshua Van in a short notice matchup. I mean, I know we had Kate versus Royval, but I might even prefer this one better. Great fight. There are great fights littered throughout the entire card, and in this video, I'm gonna get straight into it and break them all down for you. So let's not waste any time. I'll see you on the other side of the intro. Here we are, lads, back again. I know it's been a while, a couple of weeks since you've seen one of these, but I've still been on your TV screens, laptop screens, and phone screens, putting out videos like Parlay Madness, and also my new podcast, the Fat Lucrative MMA podcast with my guy, Fats482. If you haven't seen that yet, go and check that out. It's the hottest new MMA podcast to hit the streets. It's gonna be one of the biggest podcasts over the next 6 months. So make sure you go and watch the first episode. It's on my YouTube channel where you are right now. But for this one, we're gonna speak about UFC 317, and it's potentially the best card of the entire year. I mean, some of the matchups we have this week are the best matchups of the entire year. And some fighters fighting on this card, I have made a hell of a lot of money on them. So I'm very excited not only to watch the card, but more importantly, to make money from the card. I am a professional sports bettor. I make my living through betting on MMA and other sports. I'm not a predictor. I don't pick fights. I bet on fights. It's completely different. You know, sometimes people message me and say, oh, you got 7 picks right this week. You got 11 picks right. I don't give a fuck about picks. I'm here to make money, and picks and bets are completely different. And it's why I try and tell you that every single week on this channel. So without further ado, let's get into the first fight, or the last fight of the night, but the first fight of the show. That is Ilia Topuria taking on Charles Oliveira for the vacant lightweight title. Ilia Topuria is coming into this fight with a very shiny record, the best record in MMA currently at 16-0. And when I say the best record, I don't mean the highest record. I mean the record that is the most shiny while also being at the top of the game. Charles Oliveira, on the other hand, is coming into this fight with a crazy record of 35 wins and 10 losses. So 45 professional MMA fights. And I'm not even going to check the entire card, but I'm going to guess right now that there is no one on the entire card that has as many fights as Charles Oliveira. Currently, they have Ilia Topuria sitting as a very big favorite, minus 350, with the underdog price tag on Charles Oliveira coming back at a plus 275. So the first thing that stands out to me in this fight is that, oh, Topuria is fighting again. One of the greatest fighters in MMA history. Topuria is a legend, man. He's won me a lot of money. One of the biggest amounts of money I've ever won on MMA was when I bet on Topuria to beat Alexander Volkanovski. Obviously, I've been betting on MMA for 10 years, right? So there's a lot of candidates, but that was definitely a big cash for me. You know, I was putting a bunch of videos out before the fight saying that Topuria was going to win. I gave him out as a free bet on one of my Instagram short forms. I got clowned a lot for that. Obviously, people was riding for Volkanovski. I understand why. But we cashed Ilia Topuria there. We cashed him as an underdog as well. And then I played him again against Max Holloway. And a Max Holloway one was a massive cash. I've actually been betting this dude since he came into the UFC, so I bet on him in his debut as a plus 140 underdog against Yusuf Salau. So I've been high on him before he made his UFC debut. And the reason is because of what we all know about him, right? He has elite power for the division. I also believe that it's going to translate to the 155 division, and we'll speak about that in a minute. He sets up his shots unbelievably well. The pressure he has in the octagon is second to none. His fight IQ, body work, and footwork in combinations when he lands his punches are some of the best I've ever seen in MMA. He corrals you up against the octagon and just unloads 5 or 6 punch combinations, and if one hits you, you're getting knocked out. I called the exact sequence of how he would knock out Alexander Volkanovski, and even with someone like Volkanovski's footwork, fight IQ, brains, distance control, it only took him 7 minutes to render him unconscious. He's also elite with his wrestling and jiu-jitsu skills. You know, I don't think he's the best wrestler of all time, but I think he's got extremely heavy top pressure, and he's just very fast and balanced, so it's very hard to take him down. He has been taken down in the octagon. Bryce Mitchell had got him down, And Yusuf Zalal was able to out-scramble him at times, or at least, get away from him in those scrambles. So he's not unbeatable. He is undefeated, but he's not unbeatable and he's not flawless, right? We have seen some of his negatives in the octagon. For example, Jai Herbert landed a beautiful head kick on him, dropped him, and hurt him very badly in that fight. And that's an interesting fight to talk about because, it's somewhat comparable to this fight in multiple ways. And one of the ways is that, I can think of so many off the top of my head, but let's just go through them. So that was Topuria's only fight at 155 pounds, right? And now he's moving up, he's vacated the title, and he's going to fight Charles Oliveira at 155 pounds. His only other fight at 155, like I said, he got hurt, dropped badly in round 1, ended up getting a round 2 finish. But he also not only fought at 155, he fought someone who is long, tall, rangy, and who throws kicks at 155, which is very similar to Charles Oliveira. Charles Oliveira is going to try and keep range here. He's going to throw 1-2s, he's going to throw teep kicks, head kicks. He may try to grapple as well, but on the feet, he's not just going to walk into the pocket because he's not an idiot, right? He's going to throw a lot of shots, but he's not just going to recklessly close distance. I think he's going to try and keep Topuria at the end of his kicks. I'm not saying he's going to fight a point fight, of course not, but he's going to try and throw kicks and knees and straight shots to keep Topuria away from him. That's exactly what Jai Herbert tried to do and had big success doing with the head kick in round 1. One thing that Ilia doesn't get credit for is that he actually has pretty good calf kicks, and I believe that it plays a part in limiting his opponent's movement to get them where he needs them to be, which is back against the fence so he can land his finisher move, his special move. He presses L1, R2, L1, R2, and his finishing move is body, body, head, head, body, body, head, head up against the cage. And if one of those lands to the head, like I said, you're getting knocked out. Ask Damon Jackson, ask Alexander Volkanovski, ask Jai Herbert, ask all of these guys that he's fought for the most part. If Charles Oliveira can't get the fight to the ground, I have a hard time seeing him win against Ilia Topuria. Ilia is the much better striker, at least the much more effective striker. I would say that, Charles Oliveira has way better knees than Ilia Topuria, way better elbows than Ilia Topuria, and way better body and head kicks than Ilia Topuria. But Ilia is so much more effective in the striking discipline in MMA. So, we can argue of who's the better striker. Charles has way more tools and he throws stuff a lot more cleanly when it comes to the knees and the lower body attacks. But it doesn't really make you a better striker if you're just going to get knocked out by the dude all the time, does it? That's another argument for another day, but let's use the word effective. Ilia is the much more effective striker here, and that's how I see the fight playing out, guys. I really think that Ilia is going to beat up the leg, beat up the body, has some of the best body work in MMA underneath Jack Della Maddalena, and man, he uses his body work to set up the headshots very, very well. Like a traditional boxer, I have no doubt that if Ilia Topuria just wanted to go the boxing route, he could become a decent boxer at this stage in his career. He would get some decent wins on the pro circuit. And if he started boxing as a young kid, he'd probably be a world champion. I truly believe he has the ability to do that. Ilia is a once in a 5 to 10 year type of fighter. He reminds me of Conor McGregor during his rise to the top. And obviously Ilia loves Conor McGregor. He's an inspiration to him. He's said this multiple times, even though they don't necessarily get along right now or he doesn't like him. So I do definitely see shades of Ilia Topuria in Conor McGregor, mainly with the mentality. With the mentality, the self-belief, the confidence, and I just don't think that someone like Charles Oliveira has what it takes to defeat Ilia Topuria. I think you need to kill Ilia Topuria, and I don't think you need to kill Charles Oliveira. I think you need to hurt him very badly, but he has been hurt very badly, multiple times. Let's not forget, Michael Chandler had this guy almost out. Dustin Poirier dropped this guy all over the octagon. Justin Gaethje dropped this guy all over the octagon. Islam Makhachev, who is predominantly a grappler. Yes, he's a very good striker now, but he isn't dropping guys. He dropped Charles Oliveira to the mat, subbed him shortly thereafter. I would not be surprised to see Ilia Topuria drop Charles Oliveira and then submit him with an arm triangle, just the same as Islam Makhachev did. I think his top pressure is insane. I think his squeeze is insane. And I've seen Charles Oliveira tap multiple times throughout his career. So yeah, man, it's just like one guy is on a different career trajectory. I just feel like Charles Oliveira has had his day in the UFC. He got finished by Islam Makhachev to lose his title. He then got beat by Arman Sarukian. And one thing I will say is that, a lot of people are going to be speaking about the height advantage. Yes, I understand that. Of course, it's something to speak about, but let's not make any mistake about it. Charles Oliveira has lost to fighters the size of Ilia Topuria before. There was a photo that went viral recently of Raul Rosas Jr. towering over Ilia Topuria, and Raul Rosas is a 135 pounder. Ilia Topuria is fighting in the 155 division, right? But guess who else is 5'7", 5'8"? Arman Tsarukyan, who beat Charles Oliveira and at times ragdolled him, right? And Ilia Topuria is listed at 5'7". Arman Tsarukyan is listed at 5'8", so very similar height. And I mean, outside of a guillotine, Charles, lost the fight pretty handedly, got taken down at will, and I really feel like Ilia Topuria can take Charles down when he wants. I also think he can knock him out, and I predict him to knock him out on the feet within 10 minutes. Ilia Topuria via KO in rounds 1 or 2 is my official prediction. In the next fight of the night, we have Alexandre Pantoja defending his title yet again against Kai Kara-France. Alexandre Pantoja coming into this fight with a extensive MMA record of 29 wins and 5 losses, with Kai Kara-France having another extensive MMA record of 25 wins and 11 losses. Alexandre Pantoja is a big favorite at -260 odds, with the underdog price tag on Kai Kara-France coming back at +220. So this is a great fight, and I'm just gonna give a disclaimer right before I go into this fight, which is that Kai Kara-France is from Auckland. He's from the place that I live. And that means that I may be a little bit biased in supporting him, right? I support all of the English, all of the Londoners. That's where I'm from, right? I live in Auckland and I know people who are friends with Kai Kara. I know people in the industry, in the MMA scene over here, right? It's a very small, tight-knit scene. So I'm biased in general. I'm always gonna root for him. I want him to win. So there may be some bias in the breakdown, but at the end of the day, I'm a money maker first of all, right? Before any of this, I want to make money. So that is my goal. I have bet against people who maybe I'm not friends with, right? I don't think I would ever bet against I would never ever even dream of betting against my legitimate friend. But I've bet against people who are friends of my friends and stuff, of course, right? Like shit happens, but there may be some bias in this breakdown, right? I just wanted to give a disclaimer. So let me go into the breakdown. I honestly feel like Kai Kara-France got a good chance to win this fight. I mean, this is a rematch, right? First of all, boys, this is a rematch, boys and girls. So make sure that if you are betting on this fight, go back and watch their first fight. It's a long time ago, so maybe you can't take too much from it, but it's still a good barometer of their skill set in general and how they match up. And, it was a long, long time ago. It was on The Ultimate Fighter. It was 9 years ago, right? So have the fighters evolved since then? I fucking think so. I mean, that was on The Ultimate Fighter. And now they are the Ultimate Fighters. They're fighting for a title, right? So they've definitely got a lot better. And if you go back and watch that first fight, it was a pretty close fight. It was a good fight, back and forth fight. Alexandre Pantoja won the fight because he won the first 2 rounds on the judges' scorecards and it didn't go into a 3rd round. Because in the Ultimate Fighter, if you go 2 rounds and you've won the first 2 rounds on the judges' scorecards, they don't make you compete for a 3rd round. In that fight, Pantoja knew what he wanted to do. He shot for a takedown almost immediately. As soon as the fight started, Kai Kara-France was able to defend it. So it was a good sign and land some solid strikes of his own. As the fight wore on, Alexandre Pantoja was able to find his grappling positions, as he always does, even without takedowns. And that's something amazing about Alexandre Pantoja, is that he doesn't need to take you down to get you down, right? And what I mean by that is he'll just jump on your back, right? He'll just jump on your back. He will jump on your legs. He'll be getting grappled by Askar Askarov and somehow transport up underneath his legs from the ground and take the back. I mean, it's absolutely unbelievable some of the ways he takes the back and gets his fighters on the ground in his grappling scenarios without even taking them down. That's what he was able to do to Kai Kara-France. He was able to get some grappling positions of his own, and he was also able to land some very solid strikes on him on the feet. He's a very, very good striker in and of himself. Kai Kara-France was beating up his lead leg there, kicking his legs out, and, he fought valiantly. He just lost, it is what it is. But this is 9 years later. And while I feel like both fighters have evolved massively, I still think that the overall dynamic is pretty similar, in that Alexandre Pantoja is going to try and get him down, probably early in the fight. Maybe not as early as he did in that first fight, but probably still early in the fight. He's going to shoot takedowns as he always does, and he's going to try and wear on Kai Kara. He's going to try to make Kai Kara make a mistake like he did in that tough fight where he slipped. And, all he needs is one slip or one hiccup or one wrong move of the hips or whatever it may be, and he's on your back, he's taking you down, he's choking you out. So I feel like Pantoja's going to try and pressure, try and shoot, try and land shots, try and make Kai Kara make a mistake. Because Kai Kara has some of the best takedown defense in the entire flyweight division. So if Pantoja's just going there shooting takedowns and just trying to get him down, I don't know whether he's going to be successful. He's going to need to pressure and make Kai Kara make a mistake. And I really think that that's what the path to victory for Alexandre Pantoja is. You know, I heard an interview from Pantoja where he was saying that Kai Kara-France is kind of like Mike Tyson, right? And obviously what he meant by that is he's one of the fighters in the flyweight division that can actually knock him out, right? Because a lot of people just don't hit that hard in the flyweight division, but Kai Kara-France can. And as he, you know, as Cormier asked him, how come you keep knocking these people out? He says, it's because I'm moldy, bro. And he's going to bring a lot of that mana into the octagon this weekend, that power, and he's going to crack Pantoja on the chin, and he's going to need to if he's in with a chance to win this fight, because he's the worst grappler in this matchup, right? He's got great takedown defense, but at the end of the day, I've seen time and time again, people are able to take his back, right? Rogerio Bontorin was able to take his back. Amir Albazi was able to take his back. Askar Askarov was able to take his back. So it would almost be irresponsible for me to tell you that Alexandre Pantoja is not going to be able to take his back. But it will also be irresponsible for me to tell you that that means he's instantly getting submitted. I do believe that Pantoja can get the back, but he won't submit Kai Kara-France. I trust Kai Kara-France. He's one of the best rear naked choke and back take defenses in the entire sport. He really is, because I've seen his back taken by legit guys, and the guy's never getting tapped out. So look, I think this fight's just a very close fight, but the odds are not saying it's a close fight. And this goes back to what I said just after the intro, boys, which is that picks and bets are completely different, right? I am picking Alexandre Pantoja to win the fight. If you put a gun to my head and said, I'm gonna shoot you in the head if you get this prediction wrong, I'm gonna probably say Pantoja, right? But I'm gonna bet on Kai Kara-France, because what do? We bet against our picks multiple times. Guess what I cashed on a couple of weeks ago? Alonzo Menafield, plus 500 over Umar Sy. Who did I pick to win that fight? Who did I predict? Who gives a fuck? First of all, but second of all, I predicted Omar Sy. Yeah, okay, I think Omar Sy is probably going to win the fight. I don't give a fuck. I think it's a close fight, and I think Menafield could win it. So let me bet on Menafield. We bet against our picks all the time, right? You have to understand that if you want to be a profitable sports bettor. If you want to listen to pick winners, which none of these guys win, go listen to prediction channels. This is a gambling channel, and I'm trying to tell you how the pros do things and how people who make a living off sports betting do things. And that is looking for value. I could be wrong, and there may be no value, but I believe that plus 220 is a great line for Kai Kara-France. I think he has a great chance of winning this fight. I think he has a great chance of hurting and wobbling and dropping and being the first man to truly hurt Alexandre Pantoja in the octagon, like drop him down, sit him down and badly hurt him. I also think he has the chance to be the first man to knock him out. Overall, I feel like it's going to be a close, tight decision, just like the Steve Erceg fight was. I think this is very comparable to the Steve Erceg fight, except for we have someone now that has knockout power, unlike Steve Erceg. Go and ask Steve Erceg if Kai Kara-France does have knockout power. And also, we have somebody who has been there and done it in the division, right? He's not making his full fight in the UFC like Steve Erceg, fighting for a title and still going to a 50-50 fight with Alexandre Pantoja. I think Pantoja has had some close fights. Brandon Moreno was a 50-50 fight. Steve Erceg was a 50-50 fight. And I think Kara-France could be a 50-50 fight. We're betting a plus 220 underdog. So yeah, that's my pick. Kai Kara-France for the Maldives, for the Kiwis, for New Zealand. Let's fucking roll. So the next fight of the night, we have Beneil Dariush taking on Renato Moicano. And Renato Moicano has a record of 26-1, with Beneil Dariush having an eerily similar record, which I speak about a lot, at 22-6-1. Currently, they have Renato Moicano as a minus 150 favorite, with the underdog price tag on Beneil Dariush coming back at plus 130. Now, this is a very, very good fight, and I've actually already broken down this fight, and I believe I've broken it down live on this channel. So I'm going to be very quick for this one, because my opinion hasn't changed from my first breakdown. Go back and watch my old breakdown if you want to know what I think about this fight, right? I'll just run you through my top line thoughts. I think the fight's going to be the same as it was 6 months ago. Maybe it's a little bit worse now because Dariush is aging, so every day for Dariush is like a month in fight years or something like that. But I still feel we're going to see a very similar fight. So this is how I see the fight playing out, boys. You know, Beneil Dariush struggles against fighters who can really hurt him on the feet, right? Fighters who can crack him, wobble him, make him do the stanky leg or knock him unconscious. Does Renato Moicano fit the bill there? I mean, he's a grappler, right? Moicano is more of a grappler. You know, he wins basically all of his fights via grappling, and he almost wins none of his fights via striking, except for the Calvin Kattar performance, which is a very interesting one. But yeah, I just don't really see Moicano having the danger needed to beat Beneil. Now, I will say this, Beneil Dariush's chin is very, very suspect. It's been cracked multiple times by fighters who shouldn't be in there with him, like Alexander Hernandez back in the day. So he can be hurt by anyone. And I have seen Moicano has some power, like he does, right? He cracked Fiziev. I remember that And look, he does hold some power. I just feel like you need to be a little bit more dynamic on the feet. You need to hit a little bit harder, and you need to have a bit more in the hands to truly knock out someone like Beneil Dariush, at least consistently, right? And if Moicano's not going to knock him out, then it's going to be a very close fight where I give Beneil Dariush the upside for sure. I think Beneil Dariush is the better striker. I think he's the better wrestler. And I think he's the better grappler, or at least maybe not better top grappler. You know, Moicano's probably a bit more dangerous when he gets on top, but I think Beneil Dariush can out-scramble Moicano. I think he's the better scrambler here, and I think he's the better wrestler. So I think Beneil Dariush is going to win the fight. And like I said, go back to my old videos for a full breakdown. Beneil Dariush, if he avoids getting knocked out, he should win the fight. Maybe he's washed now. He could come in looking like a washed version of himself, and that is always a risk. But at plus 130 odds, I feel like that is the side all day long. I bet him at plus 170, plus 185 last time out. So it's very annoying to see him at plus 130. But that's the breakdown for the fight, boys. Go back and watch the other one if you want an in-depth breakdown. I'm taking Beneil Dariush to win this fight. I think he can kick from the outside, use his kicks to establish range. I think he can out-scramble and defend any takedowns from Renato Moicano, just like RDA. And I think he can piece him up on the feet from the Southboy stance. I think he can take him down himself if he wants. And I just feel like overall, Beneil Dariush is going to get this one out of the bag with a plus 130 underdog price. In the next fight of the night, we have Brandon Royval taking on Joshua Van. Brandon Royval coming into this fight with a record of 17 wins and 7 losses, and Joshua Van coming into this fight with a record of 14 wins and only 2 losses. Currently, they have this as one of the closest line fights, actually the closest line fight on the entire fight card. They have Joshua Van as a minus 105 favorite with the underdog barely price tag coming back on Brandon Royval at plus 115. So this is a very, very close fight according to the odds. And this is a very, very close fight according to your boy, James, because, man, I mean, both fighters, these are the 2 most exciting fighters in the flyweight division, and they're facing each other. You know, Royval versus Cape is an intriguing matchup, but Cape was a massive favorite there, right? And I feel like Van's way more exciting than Cape, which is saying something, just because he puts himself in way more danger. He's a bit more vulnerable. He's younger, so he doesn't have that experience there, and he throws more shots. You know what I mean? Beneil Cape can be some of the most low volume fighter in the division. Joshua Van is the opposite of that. The first thing that stands out to me in this matchup is that Joshua Van had fought just 3-4 weeks ago, right? So he had to cut weight for that fight. It was a 3-round fight. And to be honest, he didn't take much damage in that fight at all, right? Like, he just completely destroyed Bruno Silva. And shout out to him, because we cashed on his round 3 prop there. We cashed on the fight doesn't go to a decision. I gave it out on Parlay Madness and all of that stuff. So yeah, that was a good one. And he didn't take a lot of damage. But at the end of the day, it was still a 3-round fight. He still got hit at times. He still got landed on. He still got his leg beat, stuff like that. Like, it did happen, right? And now, you know, 3-4 weeks later, he has to cut weight again. It's not ideal. It's not an ideal circumstance for Joshua Van. By the way, he hasn't had a full camp for this one, right? Which is Brandon Royval has. And yes, he's had a full camp for Beneil Cape and not for Joshua Van, so it's a different type of fighter. But at the end of the day, there are still some advantages for Brandon Royval here. 1 weight cut, full camp, like obvious advantages, okay? Inarguable advantages. Some more advantages for Brandon Royval. UFC experience, right? He's fought in the UFC more than Joshua Van. Way more high-level experience. I mean, the guy's been in there with the current champion twice. The guy's been in there with Brandon Moreno twice. The guy's been in there with so many of the top fighters in the division, and Joshua Van has never fought anyone on the level of Brandon Royval. Something that comes into mind with this fight as well is that Joshua Van seemed to struggle in the UFC. Only a couple of times he struggled, to be honest, but one of the main fights that he struggled with, I mean, his only loss in the UFC, was against Charles Johnson. And Charles Johnson was switching stances constantly, throwing kicks up the middle constantly, throwing uppercuts, knees, and a lot of volume. And that is the exact thing that Brandon Royval is going to do in this fight. He's going to switch stance constantly. He's going to throw a lot of kicks, a lot of knees. You know, he's got a brutal knee KO over Mateus Nicolau. And, you know, I just feel like he can match a lot of Charles Johnson's attacks that he used in that fight. And the scorecards were all over the place in that fight, right? Charles Johnson was up 2-0 on one scorecard, 1-1 on another scorecard. and Van was up 2-0 on the third scorecard, right? And then round 3 started and he knocked him out with an uppercut in round 3, right? Joshua Van got knocked out in that fight by someone who doesn't really have hardly any knockouts in the UFC and doesn't hit that hard. He hits decently hard, but he's not like the biggest power puncher in the flyweight division. And we have seen Van dropped multiple times. He got dropped by Kevin Borjas, wobbled there, and I just feel like his chin can be a little bit vulnerable because he puts himself in danger, and I don't think he has the best chin of all time, whereas I feel like Brandon Royval, he probably has the durability advantage here. He wins the durability war. And, you know, seeing the Charles Johnson fight, it makes me lean on the Royval side. I'm going to pick Royval in this fight. This is a very close fight, boys. Like, I could speak about this fight for 30 minutes, but I really don't want to. You know, I'm going to do some more tape on this fight. It was a late notice booking, so there's just a few things I want to look at a little bit more. Ultimately, I'm going to pick Brandon Royval here. I think that Brandon Royval, the UFC experience might come into play in the later rounds. I think the awkward movement and striking arsenal may trouble Joshua Van. I think his cardio and the ability to keep up with Joshua Van might struggle with it. I mean, one of Van's biggest skill sets, or one of Van's biggest intangibles, is his cardio and volume. And that is matched here by Brandon Royval. So if you take the cardio and volume advantage away from Van, he's not as much of a potent fighter as he usually is at all, right? Because that's a huge advantage he has over almost every opponent. So yeah, boys, I will pick Brandon Royval here, but it's a very close fight. I don't know if I'm going to get to a bet. I'll have to think about it a little bit more. I mean, it's tough, right? My pick is Brandon Royval, though. And it's such a great fight, and I can't wait for it. All right, lads, now we've made it to my favorite part of the show. It's where I give you a chance to join my VIP members group, the Lucrative MMA Elite Zone, where I give you all of my official predictions, not just the 4 predictions I've given you today. I break down every single fight on the card in detail and give you my official bets. Bets are different than picks. I give you my long shot parlays, my long shot prop bets, other bets that I think hold value, and you get access directly to me through my community group chat, where we have tons of people in on fight nights discussing the fights and throughout the week. So all you need to do to enter for a chance to win is comment on the video down below. Leave a good comment and I will enter you in next week's draw. Everybody from this week's draw has commented on my previous videos. So let's spin the wheel of fortune now and see who won. All right, here we go. We're spinning the wheel of fortune. Let's see. There's a lot of names on there. Every week the names keep growing, so I can't even see where we're at the moment. Slowing down, we've got MMA Toad. Shout out to MMA Toad. My man, you have just won yourself 1 month free of the Lucrative MMA Elite Zone. All you need to do to claim your prize is DM me on Instagram and verify your profile. I'll tell you how to do that. I've got your profile up here right now, so we're gonna verify you. So DM me, tell me you won, and we'll get you in to the Lucrative MMA Elite Zone. But don't worry, if you did not win today, you can still join and get all of my official picks by going to the link in the bio or in the top comment, which is sublaunch.com/lucrativemma. As I said, you get all of my official picks, all of my full card breakdowns, long shot props, long shot parlays. You get everything, and you get to cash money with me as I do it. Place the exact bets that I place every single week. We are up 91 units and almost hit 100 units for the year. Now, this video is shot early, so we may be over 100 units by the time you see this video. I don't know, but at some point, we're going to cross the 100 unit barrier, and it hasn't even been 6 months of the year yet. The best run of my life, and hopefully it's going to continue. So that's it, boys. Thank you for watching. If you want to get all of my official picks, as I said, the link is in the bio, and that's it. I will see you in the next video. Let's continue this hot streak. Let's continue this run. Let's continue this positivity, uplifting everyone, and we can all win. We are all going to make it. Let's go.